New developments now in the Benghazi terror attacks. The State Department is set to finally designate a former Gitmo prisoner and his group as terrorists over their alleged role in the attack. Now, this comes nearly 16 months to the day of the attack, yet State still refuses to connect the group and its leader, again, a former Gitmo detainee, to al-Qaeda. Doug Schoen, former advisor to President Bill Clinton, Fox News contributor. Brad Blakeman joins us, served as deputy assistant to President George W. Bush. Gentlemen, good to see you both.
Good to see you.
You know, Doug, 16 months. What took them so long?
Well, I don't know, and I think that's one of the reasons why we ought to have a commission of inquiry set up on a nonpartisan basis or a bipartisan basis by the House of Representatives to find out what, in fact, happened. I think the argument is pretty clear that we ought to do that before we get into the presidential election. I think we ought to get the answers to the question of who did it, why it was done, what the role, if any, of the film was, so that we make very, very clear to the American people why 4 Americans tragically perished, including an ambassador on 9/11.
You know, Brad, his Gitmo file states that he has long ties to al-Qaeda. He trained with al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda gave this guy, Bin Kumo, a monthly stipend for his family. And yet, you know, when you watch the State Department, the spokeswoman yesterday, Jen Psaki, I mean, she consistently said al-Qaeda was not involved in the Benghazi attack, nor its affiliates. Come on, I mean, whether they're affiliates or ties or linked or inspired, in the words of Hillary Clinton, what difference does it make? What is State Department just dancing on words here?
Absolutely. Look, the semantics played by this administration were played almost in the first week of the presidency in 2009 when he refused to have him or his administration acknowledge a war on terrorism. There was no war on terrorism. It also didn't fit the president's narrative in 2012 that al-Qaeda was all but finished thanks to his efforts. So this doesn't fit their narratives. They're engaged again in semantics. The American people have already made up their mind as to what this was. The State Department now saying it's terrorism, but it wasn't al-Qaeda related. The American people know better. They're trying to tell us the sky is green when we all know it's blue, and it's way past the time where the president's outrage should have been put to action. Why haven't these people been brought to justice?
Let me stick with you for just a second and bring up the point that Doug brought up about a select committee in the House. Now, John Boehner, the Speaker, has consistently refused to do so. 5 House members went to him, I believe it was yesterday, and, you know, trying to talk him into it. Here's a soundbite from the uncle of Sean Smith, who lost his life that day in Benghazi. Take a listen.
We need one body. We need one body that has one point of focus that can really get to the truth. We need real truth and accountability. And that's been missing in action.
Is Doug right? And Boehner's making a mistake here by not appointing a select committee.
There should be a select committee. Doug is right. The American people have a right to know. Hillary Clinton needs to be in that seat and testify under oath. The fact that she was not deposed when the president had his quote-unquote joint investigation, bipartisan commission, is an outrage. The fact that Pickering did not see the benefit of her testimony when she was in charge of that office, and especially in light of Gates' book now, where we know that both the president and Hillary were engaged in making political decisions against the best interest of the American people. This is another evidence of the fact that it's more likely than not that political decisions were made on the heels of a re-elect that was selfishly made. And we know that in light of the surge decisions that were made by both Hillary and Obama.
Doug, if Bin Kumo and Ansar al-Sharia, his group, are in fact designated as terrorist organizations behind the Benghazi attack, does that pretty much discredit the New York Times long investigation, which said, oh, there's no al-Qaeda involvement here?
Well, I would think so. Look, I read the New York Times article, and I was frankly a bit flabbergasted, Greg, because it seemed to whitewash the entire issue, to suggest no al-Qaeda. The film had more impact than we would have ever thought, according to them. And goodness gracious, reading the reports this morning, even in the New York Times, Greg, about what the State Department is likely to do Friday, rebuts the central thesis of their argument.
Yeah, and a survivor who was there and saw everything told Lindsey Graham there was no protest out there. So more to come, I would think. Doug Schoen, Brad Blakeman, good to see you both.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.